And good afternoon, you guys. We left off yesterday. Little Bear and Boone were eating breakfast together. They made a truce to get along, at least to eat. So let's see. You can have some after breakfast, but if you don't agree to eat with my Indian, I'm going to tell him your nickname. Do you remember what it was? I think it was Boo-hoo, because he cries about everything. The cowboy's face fell. Now that ain't fair. That plumb ain't no ways fair, he muttered. But hunger was getting the better of him, so grumbling and swearing under his breath, he turned back and marched to his side of the spoon. By this time, Little Bear was seated cross-legged on the piece of paper, a hunk of bean in one hand and a mess of egg in the other, eating heartily. Seeing this, Boone lost no time tucking in, eyeing the Indian, who ignored him. "Where's my coffee?" he complained after he'd eaten a few bites. "I can't start the day till I've had my jug of coffee." Omri had completely forgotten about coffee, but he was beginning to be pretty well fed up with being bossed around by both ungrateful little men. So he settled down to eat the remains of the food and simply said, "Well, you'll have to start this one without any." Little Bear finished his breakfast and stood up. "Now we fight," he announced, and reached for his knife. Omri expected Boone to leap up and run, but he didn't. He sat there munching bread and beans. "I ain't finished yet," he said. "I ain't gonna fight till I'm plumb full of victuals. So you can just sit down and wait." Omri laughed. "Good for you, Boone. Take it easy, Little Bear. Don't forget your promise." Little Bear scowled, but he sat down again. Boone ate and ate. It was hard not to suspect, after a while, that he was eating as much and as slowly as possible to put off the moment when he would actually have to fight. At last, very reluctantly, he scraped the last bit of egg from the spoon, wiped up his hands on the sides of his trousers, and stood up. Little Bear was on his feet instantly. Omri stood ready to part them. "Look a-here, Injun," said Boone. "If we're going to fight, we're going to fight fair. Probably ain't even a word for fair in your language, but I'm here to tell you, with me it's a fight fair or don't fight at all." Little Bear, fight fair. Kill fair. Scalp fair. "You ain't going to scalp nobody. Let's just take it off with your teeth." "Oh, lessen you take it off with your teeth." Jeez. For answer, Little Bear raised his knife, which flashed in the morning light. Omri, on his hands and knees, waited. "Yeah, I see it, but you ain't going to have it much longer. And why ain't you?" "Because I ain't got one. I only got 'em guns, and 'em guns are run plumb out of bullets. What I got, and all I got, is my fists. Oh, and one other thing. Got my hallucination here." He waved a hand at Omri without taking his eyes off Little Bear for a second. "And I know he don't want to see this here purty red old scalp of mine hanging from no stinking belt. And so if I fight, it's going to be fist to fist, face to face, man to man. Did you hear me? No weapons, just us two. And let's see if a white man can't lick a red man in a fair fight. Lesson, maybe, just maybe, you ain't red at all, but yeller." So one of the things that they used to use, or a word they used to describe people who were afraid of something, was being yellow. So with his cowboy accent, he says, "You're yeller." That is the word that they used for yellow. And if you've ever heard of a story, or there's a Disney movie called Old Yeller, it's supposed to be Old Yellow. It's not that he's actually a yeller or anything like that. They called him Old Yeller because he was a yellow dog, or a yeller dog. Let's see, where did I leave off? And Boone stepped around the bowl of the spoon, threw his empty gun on the ground, and put up his fist like a boxer. Little Bear was nonplussed, lowering the knife and stared at. He lowered his knife and stared at Boone. Whether Little Bear had completely understood the cowboy's strange speech was doubtful, but he couldn't mistake the gesture of throwing the gun away. As Boone began to dance around him, fists up, making little mocking jabs towards his face, Little Bear was getting madder and madder. He made a sudden swipe at him with his knife, and Boone jumped back. "Oh, you naughty. I see. I'll have to set my hallucination on you." But Omri didn't do anything. Little Bear got the message. Throwing down the knife in a fury, he hurled himself onto Boone. What followed was not a fistfight or a wrestling match or anything so well organized. It was just an all-in, no-holds-barred, two-man war. They rolled around on the ground, pummeling, kicking, and butting with their heads. At one point, Omri thought he saw Boone trying to bite. Maybe he succeeded because Little Bear suddenly let go of him and Boone rolled away as stiff as a barrel down a slope onto his legs, and then with a spring like a bow-legged panther onto the Indian again, feet first. Little Bear let out a noise like "oof." He caught Boone by the ankles and heaved him off. Little Bear picked up a clod of compost and flung it after him, catching him full in the face. Then Little Bear got up and ran at him, holding both fists together, swinging them as he swung the battle axe. They caught the cowboy with a heavy whack, or swinging them as he had swung the battle axe. I was going to say, where'd he get his axe? They caught the cowboy a heavy whack on the ear, which sent him flying to one side. But as he flew, he caught Little Bear in a blow in the chest with one boot, and that left both of them on the ground. The next moment, each of the men found himself pinned down by a giant finger. "All right, boys, that's enough," said Omri in his father's firm end-of-the-fight voice. "It's a draw. Now you must get cleaned up for school." And that's the end of chapter 10. I'm going to start on chapter 11 here. Chapter 11 is called School. Remember, both of the guys, they wanted to go to school. Actually, I think it was Patrick wanted him to bring the Indian, and Little Bear got upset and decided he was going to go too. He brought them a low type of egg cup full of hot water and a corner of soap cut off of a big piece to wash with. They stood on each side of the bowl. Little Bear stripped off his bandolier, which left him with nothing on to the waist. He lost no time plunging his arms in and beginning energetically rubbing the whole top of his body with his wet hands, throwing water everywhere. He made a lot of noise about it, and seemed to be enjoying himself, though he ignored the soap. Boone was a different matter. Omri had already noticed that Boone was too fussy about being clean, and in fact, he didn't look as if he washed or shaved for weeks. Now he approached the hot water gingerly, eyeing Omri as if to see how little washing he could actually get away with. "Come on, Boone, off with the shirt. You can wash your neck with a shirt, or you can't wash your neck with a shirt on," said Omri briskly, echoing his mother. He sounds like his mom, that's what it means, echoing his mother. Can you hear your mom getting after you, trying to get ready or get cleaned up or take care of things, or get ready for school? With extreme reluctance, shivering theatrically, Boone dragged off his plaid shirt, keeping his hat on. "I should think your hair could do with a wash, too," said Omri. Boone stared at him. "Wash my hair?" he asked incredulously. "Washing hair's for women, 'tain't for men." But he did consent to rub his hands lightly over the piece of soap, although grimacing hideously as if there were some slimy dead thing, and wash at least the palms of his hand. Then he rinsed them hastily, smeared some water on his face, and reached for his shirt without even drying himself. "Boone," said Omri sternly, "just look at Little Bear. You call him dirty, but at least he's washing himself thoroughly. Now you do the same, or do something about your neck and, well, under your arms." Boone's look was now one of stark horror. "Under my arms? And your chest, I should think. I'm not taking you to school all sweaty. Heck, don't you go running down sweat. It's sweat that keeps a man clean." After a lot of bullying him, Omri managed to get him to wash at least a few more bits of himself. "You'll have to wash your clothes sometime too," he said. But that was much too far for Boone. "Ain't nobody gonna touch my duds, and that's final." Duds is a slang word for clothes too that you'll hear cowboys use, or in the southern speak, if they want to call it that. Ain't nobody gonna touch my duds, and that's final, he said. Ain't been washed since a bottom. Water takes the stuffin' out of good cloth. Without all the dust and sweat, they don't keep you warm no more. At last they were ready, and Omri pocketed them and ran down to breakfast. He felt tense with excitement. He'd never carried them around the house before. It was risky, but not so risky as taking them to school. He felt that having family breakfast with them secretly in his pocket was like training for taking them to school. So I'm going to go ahead and leave off right there. It's very interesting. I was on the TV and I noticed that it looks like somebody on my DVR here at the house, the way you tape the TV shows, has taped Indian in the Cupboard. I think my son knew I was reading this, so he taped the movie. I'm actually interested to go back and watch it now and see how the book and the movie relate again. And because it's been a while since I've read this to a class, I'm very interested to see what it's going to be like. So anyhow, I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for listening. Be kind to each other, and we'll talk to you soon.